Thank you everyone for coming here this morning. I know we're running 11 minutes behind. I'm going to try to get through the presentation as best I can. I'd like to be able to give you guys a few minutes of your day back. So that's always a nice gift, isn't it? So this is the topic of my talk. I lost my job, now what? And I just wanted to introduce myself. Shannon actually helped me out. Thank you for introducing me. I am a certified global career development facilitator. You can see how important that is in my life, that I actually remembered what it was called. But I'm also the host of a TV show called The Job Lady. It's a little bit of self-promotion on the TV show. KLRU is interested in the show, and we are in the midst of greenlining talks right now. So I don't know, maybe it'll be local for everybody instead of just cable access, which is what I've been on. I've been doing career coaching and executive recruiting for 22 years in tech, so that makes me absolutely qualified, but not really. All right, let's move on. And so today's conversation, as we know by now, is I lost my job. Now what? By a show of hands, who's lost their job recently? And recently means last 6 months. Everybody. Okay. I'm going to tell you things that you've heard before, things that you've heard actually maybe even this morning with Shannon. Not much of what I have to say is new, but it's nice to have a reminder, and so that's what we'll talk about. There's several steps to, honestly, to moving on, getting a new job. And the first, and we're going to talk a lot about emotions today, but we're not going to talk about emotions too much. This isn't a cheerleader session. This isn't rah-rah. We're all adults. This is work, and we get that. But the first thing that we all have to deal with when losing our job is dealing with the emotions. I got laid off. Well, I've been self-employed since '99, but I got laid off in '98, and I got real mad. You know, I was really angry. And I stayed angry for a long, long time, but in my case, I took that energy and decided to become self-employed, and I haven't been unemployed since because I've got a pretty good boss. But she's pretty awesome. I like her. But change, especially when it comes to unexpected change, is tough, right? It's tough for all of us. Anyway, unexpected change can be really hard. Some people deal with unexpected change quickly. They process these emotions very quickly. Others, like me, it takes a long time to process through those emotions because I have a tendency to get angry and then I contemplate revenge, and that never works. But let's talk about that actually in a little more detail. By a show of hands, who's angry? I mean, really, who's angry? Who is like, has everybody seen Inside Out? Do you have kids? Okay, first of all, it's a great movie about feeling our feelings. It's really wonderful. I highly recommend it if you haven't watched it. But anyway, involuntary job loss. They had me working on this project. Was it Javier? Javier, were you the one? You were working on all the fires, and they said yes, and they kept delaying you working on the automated testing because we need you, and then, well, thanks, bye.
Yeah, it was a flagship product, and then the new owner said, it's not worth it, and we're losing money. So 23 people gone.
Yeah, AMF, see you later, right? Yeah. Yeah, so angry, and it's okay to be angry, and you're gonna be angry. I hold on to it longer than most people should, and is probably healthy, but too bad. That's what I do. You will. It's okay to be angry. It's healthy to be angry. Alternately, who feels like this guy? Who's relieved? Who's relieved? Thank God. Thank God I'm out of that place. I'm away from that boss. I'm away from that situation. Because over there, the inmates are running the asylum. Does somebody want to share? I'm going to ask for some group sharing, so brace yourselves. Who wants to share a story about thank God I'm out? Somebody? Yes, sir. Red shirt.
12
Paul.
years, 11 bosses.
12 years, 11 bosses. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I did 12 years, and I had like 4 or 5, and so the new boss, they're all moving overseas, so all the development over overseas, so I lost my job. There's a lot of politics there towards the end, so I was happy to get out.
Right, and you just want to work. I just want to write my code. I just want to develop my project, and I just want to go. But I will say this. If you are actually feeling relieved, you're actually a little further along on the emotional roller coaster when it comes to dealing with the emotions. So congratulations, it will pass. Even this guy is starting to feel better. So usually the emotions that we feel after a job loss are really intense. I can speak to that myself. I got laid off back in '98 from an executive search firm. I was the #1, it's called a biller. Recruiting is sales, essentially, and I was the #1 recruiter in the office. And I wasn't a jerk, not really. I was easy to get along with, et cetera, but my bosses didn't want to pay my commissions. By the way, this happens to salespeople a lot. They blow their numbers away, and their companies lay them off because they don't want to pay the commissions. Happens all the time. I was one of those. And I was pretty upset. But the interesting thing was I decided to go into business for myself and keep all of my money instead of give away 60 cents of every dollar I earned. So for me, it worked out well. But the point is that they're intense. Just let it happen, especially in our world, in the United States, what we do for a living, most of us, especially in this town, being in tech, we want to stuff the emotions down. Just don't. Just let it happen. And we're going to talk about that more a little bit next. The good news is that even though they're intense, there's a predictable pattern. Everybody familiar with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross? We learned that back in Sociology 102 in college or something. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross came up with, and you've probably heard this before, did this study that people who suffer loss go through a very predictable pattern. While losing your job might not be the worst thing that's ever happened in the world, people who lose their jobs grieve. For whatever reason, well, not for whatever reasons, we all know why we're grieving. Some of us were grieving for the loss of money. Some of us were grieving because, we really liked our coworkers and we don't get to see them anymore. And the sudden loss of those people. But anyway, you're going to go through a predictable pattern. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. But the good news is that it's predictable. So just let it happen. And that's the key. But the key to weathering the layoff is to just feel the emotions. Just know it's predictable. Just let them pass. So when it comes to weathering these emotions and dealing with this, I've got my advice, and I talked to Shannon about this, my advice is controversial. Most people, when they get laid off, first thing they want to do is start looking for a new job right away. Is that what everybody's done? Right? You have a freak out, laying in bed at night, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, what am I going to do, what am I going to do? So my controversial advice, that kind of help get through, this roller coaster of emotions, is controversial. This is it. Do nothing. Yeah, I knew I'd hear some of that. It's okay. I knew I would hear some of that. But here's what it's based on. If, and only if you can afford it, do no job search activities. If you're in a situation where you're living paycheck to paycheck, obviously that's a different story. So my thoroughly unscientific observation of all of my clients and candidates through the years is that it typically takes 3 to 4 weeks to work through this Kubler-Ross change curve that we talked about a couple of slides ago. If you have the emotional time to do that, if you can do it financially, I highly recommend it. You will come out on the other end really feeling a lot better. Now, if you're pressed for time or money, you've got to do what you got to do. But if you can, definitely take the time off. So what can you do, or what should you do while you're doing nothing? Because you're really not going to do nothing, But go to bed when you want to, wake up when you want to, spend time with the kids, bake your cookies, eat the cookies, kiss the cat on the mouth, but most importantly, seriously, spend time with your family. Spend time with your spouse, your partner, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your real doll, your rubber chicken. But the important thing, you had no idea. When I looked for that, when I found that image on the interweb, we actually have printed it out and we framed it sitting in our house in the living room. But anyway, but really the important thing is don't withdraw. Don't withdraw from your family. Don't withdraw from your partner or your spouse. No one is judging you. It happens to everybody. We need to keep the lines of communication open, and we all need all the love and support that we can get. So stay present if you can. And trust me, eat the cookies. You end up like this, so make sure you eat the cookies and then you take a walk afterwards. During this time of change, it's going to be natural to want to rush and try to force the feelings. And we're all adults and we know that feelings are going to do what they're going to do, and you can't rush it. Being in a period of uncertainty, is uncertain and it's hard. But just let them do what they're going to do, because rushing through the process can lead to unsatisfactory results, because thoughts are energy. Negative thoughts lead to negative results. Positive results lead to positive results. And it's my opinion that when we do things out of desperation or anger or fear, that we do them wrong and we have to go back and do it anyway. And I try, I'm not successful all the time, but I try to do things once instead of having to come back and do it twice, because it takes twice as much energy. And anyway, nobody wants bad juju interfering with their job search. And so during this time off, as you're starting to feel better, if you're taking the time off, that is, when you start to feel better and you're ready to re-engage with the world again, and you're pretty sure that you're not going to lose it walking outside or going to the movie or whatever, just do positive things. This is something that we all know. Exercise, volunteer. I highly recommend that if you choose to volunteer here. Who here is familiar with Leap to Success? Okay. Leap to Success actually is the program that Shannon runs. For folks who are who came in who are newbies this morning, they heard about Leap to Success. As Executive Director of Cinematic Symphony, our organization actually has been a beneficiary of Leap to Success. It was single-handedly the most professional project that I had experienced in all of my time running Cinematic Symphony. In our case, we asked for a new website. And we had a web developer, we had a requirements analyst, we had a project manager. What else did we have, Shannon?
Yeah, that's probably about the size of the group. I mean, our projects are projects.
Yeah, we had like 4 or 5 people.
Yeah, we had a content person.
Oh yes, we had content and we did have a marketing person as well. And of course, I wasn't ready to deal with that because I couldn't sing. But it's a really great way to keep your skills up, and it's absolutely fantastic. You can put it on your resume, because what will happen when you sit down to interview, the interviewer will look at your resume and go, oh, you've been out of work for 3 months. What have you been doing? Oh, well, I've been a project manager for 2 different projects at Leap to Success. You're not losing time. There are those out in the world of hiring who errantly think, and I think they are wrong, that, oh, you haven't been employed for 3 months? Oh, you've lost your skills. No, I haven't. It's been 3 months. Shut up. You don't lose your skills in 3 months, but it's pretty amazing the biases that hiring managers can have. So I highly, highly recommend. And Shannon, could you raise your hand so we all know where you are? And
Because they haven't seen you enough.
yeah, they haven't seen you enough.
Can I just add real quick?
Of course.
Don't mean to take her time.
No, please.
If we don't have a project for you, mainly because I am so busy right now focusing on trying to make sure that this meeting goes well, and so we don't have projects rolling in left and right, go find one yourself. Go find a nonprofit that speaks to your heart, speaks to something that you're interested in learning more about, and then offer them your services. And if they say, oh my gosh, we have a race next week, we have a lot of water we can hand out, you go, that's fine, but I'm a database systems engineer, or I'm an IT guy, I'm a marketing professional, and I'd love to be able to share those skills with you. And they will be blown away, because they don't expect people to offer those kind of things for free.
Yes, absolutely. I can tell you, especially like marketing and helping get the word out in our case for concerts. I mean, it was, we had some, you guys have helped us with that, and it was absolutely amazing. So it's just a great, great group. I highly recommend it. Before moving on, are there any questions, or along the way, if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. If I don't see you, just kind of holler out, and we'll do what we've got to do. And so finally, after all the drama of baking cookies and eating cookies and spending time with your rubber doll, when you're ready, act. You'll feel it. You know, we all get that energy, we get that feeling, we get that inkling. Act. Some people will be ready in 2 weeks. Some people will be ready in 3 weeks. Some people will be ready in 8 weeks. It just depends on who you are. And when you're ready, you're ready. And so after all that, that actually leads me to step 2. And I see some incredulous faces. What do you mean, Shelly? Step 2 is clean my desk. Really, it's actually not a joke. Clean your desk. Clean your work area. Spend some time. Purge old files. Vacuum. Sweep the floor. Whatever it is that you need to do. You know, shove the cat off of the desk. Whatever it is that you need to do. Clear the desk, because a cluttered space is a cluttered mind. And with this journey that we're about to go on, it's a tough one. So I recommend spending about a half a day. And a half a day means a solid at least 3 hours. That's how I count half a day. At least 3 hours. You've done that. Sit down, you've eaten your ham sandwich for lunch. I recommend updating your resume. I actually don't have a whole lot to say about updating resumes here today, because, I mean, we offer classes here at Launchpad of how to update your resume, so it's a huge endeavor, but really, it's very simple what you need to do. Use a resume that is relevant to your field. So for example, it's my understanding that accountants seem to be obsessed with a one-page resume. I don't understand how you put 20 years of experience on one page, but apparently that's the way it is. Or alternately, if you're a project manager and you need a resume that outlines every single project that you've worked on since the Reagan administration, then that's what you've got to do. So update, tweak, do what is standard for your industry. Different industries have different standards. For the record, I actually prefer, as a recruiter, I prefer a chronological resume, and most hiring managers do as well. But be sure, of course, to talk about your accomplishments. Yes, sir. Blue shirt.
What's the advantage of chronological versus reverse chronological? Mine is reverse chronological. I've got the oldest one down at the bottom.
Yes, sir.
The most recent one up at the top.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's how we refer to it. Yes. Did everyone hear the question? The question is, what's the advantage of having a chronological resume? And a chronological resume really is just keeping track of you. What have you been doing? And good to go into, yes. So up until 2 weeks ago, I was working for Councilmember Kassar's office, but he got arrested again at the airport, so now I don't have a job. So, so that's how you do it. Then that is definitely the advantage. Some people don't like that. Some people have gaps in their resume. I will tell you, anymore in the modern world, frankly, you should have a gap in your resume, and it's okay. And especially if you're in tech, having a gap on your resume of a year or more is fine. Gaps are easily explained. Why did you take a year off? Well, you know what? I was exhausted. It's okay. I talk to candidates that have that all the time. I was tired, especially the younger folks in tech. I went skiing. I decided to go water skiing in Fiji for a year. Oh, okay. Moving on. And those things are happening more and more frequently. I had to, my mother was ill. I had to take care of my mother. My daughter had a car accident. I had to take care of my daughter. Whatever the case may be, having gaps in your resume is no longer the issue that it was, 10 years ago, Shannon, you think? Yeah, I don't think it's an issue at all. But while we're talking about resumes, I do have a few words about resume filtering software. Who has a very beautiful formatted resume and it's got like blue on it and lines around, No one? Good. Okay, good. Resume filtering software, we're going to talk more about this in a few minutes actually. I prefer that you don't submit resumes online and apply for jobs online without the express request from a hiring manager, but more about that in a few minutes. But things to keep in mind, a lot of people don't realize that with a lot of this resume filtering software, that it's designed to be exclusive and not inclusive. And I was playing out on the interwebs and I saw this great article by Rick Gillis. He's a contributing editor, contributing writer on salary.com. And so these are his words exactly and not mine. So thank you, Rick, for putting this up there. So let's talk about it. No script or designer fonts. Calibri, New Times Roman, that's it. That's all I would use. Otherwise, your resume will get rejected. No tables, same thing. No logos or graphics. Definitely guaranteed to get your resume tossed out of the systems. No continuous lines across the page. Filtering softwares reads a continuous line as a page break. You're out. And then, of course, no giant fonts. I was actually guilty of having giant fonts on my resume for many, many years because I wanted people to see, you know, Shelly's here. Well, Shelly wasn't there. She got kicked out a lot. She got kicked out a lot. So really nothing, hold on just a moment, sir. So nothing over 16 point, or if you can avoid it, nothing over 14 point for your names, because that is simply the way that they are designed to not read anything larger than that. Yes, sir. Question in blue shirt.
It's, you know, we have been told for years and years, and you mentioned this, to keep it all on one page. And so I've always tried to adhere to that instruction. I've got my font down to about 8.5.
I will tell you, so, you know, the myth, I call it the myth of the one-page resume. I am not a believer in the one-page resume. If you have more than 8 years of experience, you can't fit it on one page, especially when you've got center in Calibri, point 11 or, you know, point 12. You know, Shelly's here, Shelly's email, Shelly lives in Austin, here's Shelly's phone number, here's Shelly's LinkedIn profile, oh, here's Shelly's skills, she's really awesome. Oh, by the way, here's also where my skills start. But by the time you get to the point where you start listing your positions, you're almost halfway down the page. Yep. Right? You're certainly a third of the way down the page. So I have never understood the advice of a one-page resume. I don't understand it, and I think it's a horse hockey. I mean, I really do.
So what is the smallest font that the system will reject?
I would say 10. Don't go smaller than 10. I worked the event, Austin Digital Jobs had an event on Wednesday, and I had it's all tech folks. And I had several resumes that were put in front of me, and they were 10 point. And of course, those of us who are over the age of 35, I was like, what? What does that say? Couldn't read it. I still recommend sticking to 11 or 12 across the board. Across the board. One-page resume. Stupid. Sorry. No, the advice that it has to be that way is silly. But you know what? Accountants like it, so I don't know. I don't know what the message they're trying to get across.
Really, you can do 2 pages, or if you have an extended career, and possibly 3, but generally 2 is acceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. I will tell you, with what I do for a living, my clients are large government IT consulting firms. I work with the Big 4 consulting firms as well. I typically don't place people that have less than 16 or 20 years experience. I really found my sweet spot in dealing with people that have 20 to 30 years experience. Part of it is it's a better personality match for me. 2, they make a lot more money, and the more money they make, the more money I make, so that's easy math. But I will tell you that, I mean, I deal with people that have resumes that are 4 pages long. I don't understand the myth of the one-page resume. Never have. Yes, sir. Did you have a question, sir?
What file format are you assuming as you say all these things, tables and designer fonts and whatnot?
Personally, I say no formatting. It has been my
Is it a
experience.
text file then?
Either I would either text or a plain old Word doc. It sounds ridiculous, but I'm telling you, this is what gets through.
And then send it to a PDF.
Yeah. Oh yeah, PDF. Thank you. Yes, definitely PDF. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, definitely PDF. So you've updated your resume. You've spent half day updating your resume. It might take you a little longer. Moving on to the next step, update your social media accounts. Who is active on social media? Okay. Most common ones, of course, are listed here: Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. People do use Pinterest for work. The first time I realized that, I was really blown away by that. But it's typically people following technology, following a company. It's quite interesting. Pinterest is a heck of a thing. So I highly recommend Pinterest, actually. Of course, Twitter, of course, LinkedIn, and then also Indeed. Make sure your Indeed profile is updated. And this little guy here, for those of you who aren't familiar with the cat, that's GitHub. If you're a software engineer, definitely put samples of your work up on GitHub anymore. It's a hygiene factor. LinkedIn, and I'm sure that you've heard this before, LinkedIn actually now has a new, fairly new function where you can put samples of your work up, put samples of your project plans up, put samples of writing that you've done if you're a technical writer or whatever. It is very, very, very important. It's key. And while we're talking about social media, if you are in tech in this town, join Austin Digital Jobs. Shannon has talked about it. Shannon and I know the evil overlord of this Facebook page. Her name is Lonnie Rosales. And send her, all you have to do is go to facebook.com/Austin Digital Jobs. Send a request to join. You don't have to mention me if you don't want to, but it might give you the inside track. No. She lets people join. And you better hope that she lets you in. It is a fantastic group. More and more and more senior level people are joining the group. And it is, I actually don't even know how Lonnie controls it. There's currently 31,000 people that are members of this group. Technology employers, tech workers come together. Jobs are posted. People make themselves available. They introduce themselves to the group. Here's my skill set. Do you know who's hiring? It's very, very dynamic. And then there's a lot of advice giving. Yes, ma'am, in the white shirt.
Would this also include non-tech jobs at tech companies, like marketing?
Yes. Yeah, non-tech jobs at tech companies, absolutely. There's a lot of marketing. Though I'll tell you, the marketing jobs that I've seen have been, mostly social media marketing. Have you seen traditional marketing?
I don't recall. I mean, it's a very millennial heavy group, and there's also some blue language.
There's a lot of blue language, so.
But it's fun.
Yeah, and worth it. Yes, sir.
Also,
yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
There's also the Austin Digital job for over 35.
Great.
So it's the same, you can join both of them.
Yes.
They also have one for over 35.
Okay, and now, yes, absolutely. Absolutely, great group. So, updating your social media, because it's so important anymore, I would plan almost an entire day, especially when it comes to updating your LinkedIn and your Indeed profiles. It's a labor of love. And if you haven't done it in a long time, it's definitely worth it. And if you're unsure about everything you need to put on your LinkedIn site or your Indeed site, Mark Miller, is he here?
He will be in this afternoon.
He will be in this afternoon. Okay, Mark Miller actually is a really valuable resource. He's a board member here at Launchpad. And the name of his company is called Career Pivot. In fact, today he's teaching a class on LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn profile. And are there any seats left for that?
I let them know there might be one.
Okay.
But it won't be the last time. We'll probably have Mark come back, but it may not be so long, I guess.
Right.
It's full. Yeah.
It's full.
Yeah. Y'all are smart. You jumped on it.
Yeah, it's full. But the class will be offered again. Anymore, having a LinkedIn profile and Indeed profile is a hygiene factor. It is simply the way it is. You have to have that just like you've got to have your resume. So definitely make sure you've got those updated. So now you've done all that, you stepped away from the screen after updating all of your social media. And I'm a big, because most jobs, only 10 to 12% of jobs are online, the rest are offline, it's time to start networking. And the first thing you can do to start networking, which is step 5 in my little presentation here today, is make a list of your professional contacts. And I actually mean sit down and write out a list of people you know. Your coworkers, your ex-supervisors, the ones that you liked, not the ones that you got away from in the layoff. Ex-supervisors, Sally in accounting, salespeople, other ideas? Anybody? Yes, sir.
People you get meet at meetups.
People that you get to meet at the meetups. Anybody, any other ideas? Yes, sir.
Your accountant.
Your accountant. Your lawyer.
Professors.
Professors. Exactly. Your neighbors. Even your idiot neighbor behind you with the fence with the broken down fence. Yes.
People who used to work at your company you got laid off from, and they've now moved on to other places.
That's right. The diaspora of the last layoff, right? Yeah. Because believe it or not, the reason why I tell people to do this is that, believe it or not, there are people that used to work with you that would want to work with you again. If you had at a job from as long as, I don't know, 5 years ago, maybe 7 years ago, and I would look back that far in your list in terms of contacts. They'll want to work with you again, and just talk to them. Just talk to them. Put them on the list. Because making a list of your professional contacts, and if you've got phone numbers, calling is always preferable to email. And I know I don't have to say that to this crowd, but I'm just going to say it. Calling is always preferable to email, because making your contacts list will help you with the next step in networking, which is actually pick up the phone and call these people. Call them. You've updated your resume, you've updated your social media accounts. You've actually, at this point, you've got a good story to tell, other than, oh, that SOB Bob laid me off and said, I can't believe it, they had me working on this important project and now I'm gone. You've got a bigger story to tell, a better story to tell. Life plans, here's where you want to move on to, what it is that you're planning to do, etc. And people want to help, they really do. This is what I do for a living, so I help people find jobs all the time. But the best way to ask for help when you call your old contacts is to ask them the following question. Who do you know that I could talk to about blah? Most people, I have found that when you call somebody and say, hey, I lost my job, are you guys hiring? Well, the answer is, I don't know. Yes?
Before I go, I'm actually considering moving to San Antonio to attend graduate school.
Oh my.
I'm not sure if all these techniques are working. Sorry. And it's in data analytics, so at some point I'm going to have to go. I'm going to make a lateral move from a developer to data analytics, which is not that big of a stretch. But, I will have to be more on online, LinkedIn, and everything else.
Yeah.
Accommodate that.
Yeah.
So graduate school.
Well, if you're in graduate school, the odds are you're not looking, or are you going to be working full-time and going to graduate school?
Working part-time, medium time. So,
I think put it out there what it is that you're doing. This is where I'm working now, and I'm going to school to get my, is it a master's?
Master's in data analytics, data science.
Yeah, put it out there. People will be interested. Definitely. And make sure you join. Is there a professional organization for data analytics yet?
There's a few meetups that I go to.
Yeah, definitely make sure.
And even in those, you have to really dig your meetups in to meet people. That's what I find, because they know they have a pretty good gig. I'm not sure if they really want to share it, but I'm just, that's the sense that I get.
That's interesting. That's a growing field. I would think that people would be clawing for more people that have data, like data analytics, IT security. There literally are not enough people in those workspaces. There are more jobs by a factor of 3 or 4 than there are people. So I would think that companies would be falling over. People who work at companies would go, oh, you're going to get your degree in data analytics, let's talk when you graduate.
The thing that I noticed when I spoke with some of the speakers even, is that they're at such a high level, and I'm probably at this level, I'm not at the low end, but I'm right around here. And it's so like, they try to almost redirect you into something else. That's the sense of that. I'm looking for you more.
Right, because it's an academic field still, you think?
Yeah. And then it's very coding intensive, it's very specialized. As we get more into neural networks, because it's very specialized.
Yeah.
You want to know what you know. So anyway.
Well, tell them. That's definitely the best thing that you can do. But spend 2 to 3 days calling your contacts. Just call them. They'll help you. They want to help you. Most people know that this is simply how we do it, because just because you're calling them today and they're helping you doesn't mean that they're not going to call you a year from now or 6 months from now, because they're going to need the help. And so this actually takes me into the next step with networking. And the steps really do work if you take the time. There's a lot of upfront work, and it can be a pride swallowing seed, but we're also going to talk about that in a few minutes. And networking. As we know, most jobs aren't advertised online. We've talked about that to death. I will tell you, based on my experience, the singularly most important thing that you can do when you're networking cold is go to professional organizations. Who belongs to a professional organization? Like PMP or ITIL or somebody, Austin Marketing Association or whatever. They are the singular most important thing that you can do is attend the off-the-line, maligned, and criticized professional organization monthly meeting. And the reason why I say that is I'm going to refer to PMI specifically, for example. They have a monthly meeting. Go to the monthly meeting, you eat the rubber chicken, listen to the salesperson, that speaker that they have drone on about their great new product or whatever it is. But PMI specifically, and I know that other organizations do this as well, they have a green dot, blue dot program. Have you been to a PMI meeting lately? Are they still doing that?
Yeah.
Okay, so they do their green dot, blue dot program, and I know green dot means I'm looking for a job, or blue dot means I'm looking to hire a job. And it gets all the weirdness out of the way, if you will. You're going to be surrounded by people who know what you do, especially if you've got a PMP or you're studying for your PMP. They inherently know what you do, and you can get right to the meat of things and start talking instead of having to have 7 to 12 minute small talk conversation. Hi, it's yeah, I'm glad they still have the meeting. I had to walk 4 blocks in my suit. You don't have to have that talk. Yes, sir, in the back.
You consider meetups professional organizations?
No. Meetups are great, and they need to be on my list, so I apologize for that. But I'm talking about actual professional organizations. There's some controversy in the world about certifications. Are certifications worth it? Certifications just exist so that they can make money. Has anybody heard these arguments? Just because you have the certification doesn't mean you actually know what you're doing, but okay. But there is one thing about there are several things about certifications actually that I like. And one of those is that in order to promote their certification, it is we'll use PMI as our whipping boy because they serve it, but it is in PMI's best interest that as many of their PMPs as possible are employed. One of the things that they do when they advertise these certifications is, oh, if you have this certification, you will be in demand in the workplace, and people will want to hire you. And so they have these set in place, and it's an official, in air quotes, it's an official way into getting a job, because you're going through this official organization. And I don't have meetups on my list, but they should be. And that actually leads me to my next question, which is any other ideas for networking events? Meetups, because they're vital. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
The American Science Wall, they used to have something similar to the PMI, where they go in there and talk about jobs open and
Yes.
people looking for jobs. That was a really good networking event for me.
Yes, that's a good one. Here, of course, Launchpad. Anybody else? Churches? Anyone? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. ADJ is Austin Digital Jobs. Everybody refers to it as ADJ. So, yes, sir.
Conferences.
Oh, Good one. Conferences. Did everybody hear that? Conferences. If you can afford to go to a conference after you've been laid off, right? Yes, related. But how much? Oh, not related. Oh, excellent. Do you have to pay? Try not, well, exactly, right? I mean, conference. Excellent idea. Volunteer for those conferences. That's a great, fantastic idea. Yes, ma'am, in the blue.
Job fairs. I was at a job fair and you get to meet sometimes the managers of the place are there.
Yes.
So you get to meet who you may be working for.
Yes, the actual hires. Yes, ma'am, in that.
The general rule I tell my clients is anywhere there's an opportunity to meet somebody, people are around you,
Yes.
that's a networking opportunity. Because I've had a couple of clients find jobs by taking their kids to the park and striking up a conversation with another parent who just happens to be a CEO or a director. I mean, when you get people around, that's a networking opportunity. And if you approach it that way, you'd be surprised, pleasantly surprised, how you find out about opportunities that are not necessarily posted on websites.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yes, ma'am, in yellow.
Chamber of Commerce, meetings.
Yes.
Rotary Club meetings, Lions Club meetings.
Yes, all of the above. Kind of along the lines of what, I'm sorry, what's your name, ma'am?
Binta.
What Binta was saying. My husband got the job that he has now, is the absolute truth, because he was helping, we went to a party and somebody drank too much and he was helping a drunk idiot get into the car with their designated driver, and it turns out the designated driver is now my husband's boss. So, isn't that interesting? You never know, and that's how they just struck up a conversation at 1 o'clock in the morning on a side street in Austin. I won't tell you what part of town. I'm sorry. We're not that young. we're not so young that we were hanging out on Reading Street. So anyway, as you can see, I mean, I am very biased towards networking and getting a job because that's actually how we will all get our job. So I'm sure you're sitting there saying, Shelly, why haven't you talked about getting, applying for jobs online? And it's because, again, I've got some more controversial advice surrounding getting a job online. And this is my advice. Stop. And I actually mean that. For people who who I see in my private practice, this is actually step one. Step one is stop applying for jobs online, cold. Now this is cold, unless you've been directed by a hiring manager or someone in HR. That's a different story. But seriously, stop. I mean, like seriously, stop. Stop applying for jobs online cold. Except, and there is an exception to this rule. Except for public sector jobs. By law, the people who work in public sector who do hiring, they are required to look at all of their applications, and they actually do. So part of the reason that public sector hiring processes are so tedious and long and horrible. I mean, sometimes it takes more than a year to get a public sector job. Has that been people's experience? Part of the reason it takes so long is because they literally can spend months looking at the applications themselves. Their processes typically are very, very thorough, but this is, if you don't know anyone, there's still always the, my husband works in the IT department over at the water board, and we need a database administrator. So go ahead and apply, but we'll make sure that your resume gets on top. That still happens. But they really, really, really do look. I'm curious, there's been the federal hiring freeze and the state of Texas hiring freeze. Has that expired? Or they haven't been extended?
I think August 31st.
It's supposed to be done like at the end of August, so you can start applying again, I think in September.
Wow.
Is that for the state or the federal?
I think that's state.
State.
But they do have other jobs that are needed, so,
Right.
Their specializations.
Okay, yes ma'am.
Along those lines, it is for the remainder of the fiscal year, which ends August 30th. But they will go ahead and some of the the departments are beginning to put jobs out on job search websites because it takes them a month or more to get through all of that.
Yes.
So that you may be on, they may start showing up on some of the websites now.
Yeah.
And then by September, be able to go in September, whatever.
Right. Okay, did everybody hear that? Yeah? Okay, good. All right, let's move on.
Does anybody know when the federal freeze started?
I thought it was supposed to be June, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't think the boss knows either. Yeah, I don't think.
Well, if you
Yeah, I
look
don't
at
think they
the
know.
government jobs, you find there's jobs out there if you look.
Yeah. Yeah, you can join the Army. I did that, but I was 20. So anyway, so let's talk about why I hate cold online applications, and I really do. There is a woman by the name of JT O'Donnell. I've got her credited here. This is actually her graphic because I'm not smart enough to come up with anything this good. She is the founder and CEO of a company called Work It Daily. She publishes all the time on LinkedIn, and she's been in Forbes and Wall Street Journal, etc. I highly recommend following her on LinkedIn, so please do so. And she is opinionated about applicant tracking systems. In fact, she calls them applicant tossing systems. And she's right, because this goes back to what I was talking about earlier, how they are designed to be exclusive and not inclusive. And so she came up with some statistics, one of which we're going to talk about here in a minute. So for on average, for every job opening that is posted out on the interweb at large, there's an average of 200 applications. Those are numbers that even 15 years ago, we simply couldn't fathom. There's not enough hours in the day to go through all of those applications. And now, JT says that the first application happens within the first 3 minutes, and I don't know how that's possible because it takes an hour to fill out an application, and that's if your session doesn't get timed out and you don't get kicked out. So I don't know how people are getting this done in 3 minutes, but it's statistics. Yes, ma'am?
Actually, with LinkedIn now, they have the easy part where you just touch the button and it goes through. So I would imagine that's how they can do it in the first 3 minutes.
Yeah, probably so. But then you have to go back out to the site and it's really tough. So the applicant tossing system automatically just sort of tosses people out, first 100 people. Oh, you've got 16-point characters on your resume. We don't know how to read that. Oh, you've got a resume that's formatted. I don't know how to read that. I don't know what that is. Oh, you don't have the exact words that are in the job description on your resume. You're out. Yes, sir. Green shirt.
I'm just blown away to hear about how badly these things are written. I mean, I'm hearing that you can't have two spaces after your period.
Correct.
That they won't read it. Are the program? You're telling me that this software hasn't been updated to be better than this?
That's exactly what I'm telling you. In fact,
It's just blowing my mind.
it is mind-blowing. In fact, I've got a story to tell after we finish going through these statistics. So by the time a recruiter, an internal recruiter, actually accesses their applicant tracking systems, they review 80 applications, they review 80 resumes. But remember, they review 80 resumes for 6 seconds. That's all you get. You get 6 seconds. I'm guilty of that in what I do. I can typically tell by looking at page 1 of a resume if I'm interested or not, and I can tell almost instantly. Almost. But it's just because I've been doing this for a long time. They'll actually formally review 20 applications. They'll phone screen 3 to 6 people. They'll put 2 to 4 in front of a hiring manager. So the odds are pretty bad. And to exacerbate this, what I'm going to tell you is anecdotal, of course. I have a friend, one of my very best friends is an internal recruiter for a cloud services company here in town. And I actually trained her in recruiting and how to be a third-party agency recruiter. That's what I do, that's what I like, that's my thing. She wanted to go internal, that's fine. And of course I was teasing her about, you've got it easy, you don't have to recruit anymore, all you get to do is just, look at applications all day and pick the best ones and put them in front of your hiring managers. And you know what she told me? She said, no, should I recruit all day long? I said, why? Turns out that the applicant tracking system that they have, and I won't name it by name in public, is so bad and so inaccurate that she literally never even accesses it. And I said, what? And she said, we don't even look at it. Literally, they don't even look at it. And I said, how many applications are in there? And she said, thousands, tens of thousands. She works for a very prominent company that a lot of people want to work for. They don't even look at it. Now, take that for what it's worth. That's one person. She works in a recruiting department of 12 people. And that's just for the group that she's in. But if you've got 12 internal recruiters at a large company that don't even bother to access it, they just don't. It's amazing. And so yeah, unfortunately what I'm saying is they're really that terrible. Software salespeople are really good at their jobs.
What resource is she using?
She uses LinkedIn and the method that I taught her, which is pick up the phone and call people and say, who do you know, who do you know, who do you know?
So she's using networking just like we're using it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's still the best way. Yes, sir. And
What do you mean by he picks up the phone calls and
so this is just a little aside about what the background that I come from in recruiting. So I actually started recruiting 20 some odd years ago, and I'm what they call, you can actually go out and talk to a recruiter and say, I met someone today who is an old school recruiter. That's actually what they call people like me these days. So we were trained back before the days of the internet, and we were trained to literally pick up the phone. Now we had bosses that helped us, because we had databases. And our boss would say, oh, you've got a job requirement for Widget Co. They're looking for a sales rep. We know 2 people over at Widget Co. because we placed them there. So call the people that we placed, Shelly, and say, hey, as you guys know, you've got another position open. Maybe it's in the Omaha, Nebraska office. And say, do you know anybody who lives in Omaha who would be interested in this position? Oh, yeah. And back in those days, I would walk away from that phone call with 5 or 6 or 7 names and numbers. And I would call them. Hi, this is who I am. I was referred to you by Bob. And Bob said, you might be interested in this job. Well, I'm not interested in that job, but I know somebody who might be. And lists grow. And so old school, really hardcore networking to do. For those of us over the age of 40 who remembers recruiters calling in and saying, who do you know, right? Yeah. So that's what that is. So, yeah. Any more questions? Yes, sir.
So in the example you just talked about, do they post jobs and accept online applications and just don't even look at it?
Yep, that is correct. Did everyone hear that? They post jobs online, don't even look at the applications. It happens every day. And it's a travesty. It's a travesty. Yes, sir.
I swear my old company would post jobs online and they had no intention of hiring for it. They just wanted to grab resumes.
Yeah. They want to grab resumes to fill up their applicant tracking system that they don't look at.
To comply with some sort of law, I imagine?
Sorry?
To comply with some sort of regulation or law, or?
Honestly, I really don't know. Probably. Yes, sir. Purple shirt.
For investors.
Huh?
So that if they're hiring, if they stop hiring, investors notice. So they post jobs that don't exist. They, in order to make the investors think they're doing better than they are.
Right? That's how I feel about it.
Who's the audience for this system, right?
I'm sorry?
Who is the audience for this system?
For the applicant tracking system? HR people.
It's not them.
HR people.
Somebody else.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in keeping HR the hell out of recruiting. So I don't get along very well with HR people. Yeah, but anyway, that's a whole nother story. Sorry, HR people in the audience. All right, let's move on. We're kind of pressed for time a little bit. All right, so as you're out in the world, you're networking, you've heard about companies who are leaders in their field, or they've got great benefits, or your friends work over there, or your kid's mom works over there, whatever. Companies that you want to go work for. Definitely start researching and researching and researching and researching. Shannon talks about these resources a lot. Make sure you go to LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor. Glassdoor, I love Glassdoor. There's a lot of blue language on Glassdoor. So, yes, sir.
What is that?
Oh, people cuss a lot. People cuss. Yeah. There's a lot of cussing on that site. And that's okay and probably well deserved. But yes, sir, in the green shirt. I'm sorry, did I answer your question? Okay, Glassdoor is a review site, and people go out there, and a lot of the accounts are anonymous, because as we all know, you can get into a lot of legal trouble for going out and bashing companies, and they go out, whoo, some of the reviews are really intense, and I hate those MFers, and I can't believe it, and that's what some of those reviews look like. Yes, ma'am?
I was wondering how many of those might be populated to a certain extent by HR, by employees that they recruit to.
I think that's definitely happened. My husband, I refer to my husband a lot because he's in IT, and he's lucky because he's married to a recruiter. So, so we talk a lot. He worked at a company, one of the worst jobs on planet Earth. He would have definitely been better off digging holes in a sewage pit rather than go work at this company. It was really horrific. He had a manager who cussed at him every day, starting from day one, told him he was an idiot. I mean, it went on and on and on and on. They were sitting in, it was probably his second week that he was there. They were having a hard time. They were talking about, we're having a hard time hiring. Somebody says, what a surprise. Somebody says, well, our Glassdoor reviews are really bad. And someone else said, oh, well, we can go fix that, put HR on it. And so they definitely did. They got HR on it, and all of a sudden, there was like a bunch of 1- and 2-star reviews, and I'm not even gonna talk about the conversation that we had at home where I told him, don't take that job, and then he took the job, and he worked there for 7 weeks. That's how bad it was. But the answer is yes, it happens all the time. So you've got to take it with a grain of salt. There's some genuine stuff out there. You're smart enough, you can figure it out. But definitely take a look at it. Hoovers, of course, and then I have a recommendation that I give everyone when looking to grow your list of companies that you want to target. Use the library. Anybody been in a library in the last 5 years? Yeah. So when building your list of target companies, when you're doing your research, you want to look companies up by NAICS code, the North American Industry Classification System. The reason why I recommend the library is you can do an NAICS code for free versus $75 online. Free beats paying one every day of the week. So for example, you're doing your research and you find out about a company called Widget Co. You'd be interested in working at Widget Co. Well, okay. I wonder if there's any competitors to Widget Co. What other companies in town? Austin, Texas, Central Texas, San Antonio, Bastrop, do something similar to what Widget Co. does. You can do an NAICS code, and you can really build your list of target companies very, very, very quickly by doing that. It's free. The research librarians will help you. With Cinematic Symphony, I'm the executive director of that. We were doing a marketing campaign to hotels, and I went and I said to the librarian, and I said, how many hotels are there in Central Texas is what I was looking for. And of course, after I got laughed at, we looked up the NAICS code, and I came away with a list that was that they printed out for me, stapled the whole 9 yards, alphabetical order, and there was a list of over 720. So now that's hotels, and that's a big general thing. And if you're looking for the NAICS code of Widget Co., your list will be way less than 700. But maybe, for example, let's talk about e-commerce companies. You could probably name 5 or 6 e-commerce companies off the top of your head, but the odds are there's probably 25 or 30 in town that we don't know about. So it's a really good resource for building your list. Any questions? And it's at the library.
Just a comment on that.
Yes.
I use that for what I do. I do a very specialized thing that I won't get into because it's nobody will understand anyway.
Do you have luck with it?
I thought that there would be about 15 or 20 companies within a 50-mile radius to do what I do. 217.
Did everyone hear that? Gentleman uses this method for work. In the work that he does, he thought there were about 50 or 60 companies. Turns out there were 217. So, yeah, it's a really, really valuable resource. NAICS, North American Industry Classification System. All right, I'm almost finished, I swear. This is, we don't have to talk about this for time, but we talked about searching for jobs online. When doing your research, you want to go online and use social media. This is a posting this is a job posting actually by a local company. They put it up last year. They're an animation and visual effects firm here in Austin. They put 2 jobs, they posted them up on their website, on their Facebook page, excuse me, not their website, on their Facebook page. Who's ever applied for a job off of Facebook? Guess what? It happens, and it happens a lot, and it's happening more and more and more and more. So in the case of Mighty Coconut, I know the owners of this company. In the case of Mighty Coconut, they put job recs up for 2 positions, a lighting TD, I don't know what that is, and a storyboard artist. Don't really know what that is either, but it doesn't matter. They put it up one time, once. And anybody who's ever followed a company or a business on Facebook knows of the ephemeral nature, that just because you like them and you sign up for the alerts that say every time they post something, please contact me, you never get contacted. You don't even know what's happening. They don't know what's going on half the time. They put it up one time, never again. For 2 positions, they received about 50 resumes apiece, and they had someone start 2 weeks later. Have we all heard the story that McDonald's is hiring 250,000 people? Have you heard that in the news? McDonald's is hiring 250,000 people. You can look it up when we leave today. And they are advertising exclusively on Snapchat. It's true. So
I know they got kiosks and they're replacing their employees at this point with kiosks.
they're hiring 250,000 people to do something. So, I don't know. But I've also heard the thing about kiosks. But the point is that it's on Snapchat. So they're clearly going after the younger demographic. You're going to see more and more of this. And I just wanted to be able to prove to everyone that this really is happening. Job posts are going up on social media sites. So if you don't want to do it, unfortunately, we're fast approaching where it's also going to be another hygiene factor. Staying the course. Searching for a job is frustrating. And we've all seen this. Get up every day at the same time, plan your work your plan. Don't stop. And that's about as much rah-rah as you're going to get from me today. Because we all know what we need to do. But if you get too frustrated, I recommend reading a couple of books. I personally own Spin Selling. I love it. Xerox invented the concept of spin, and they teach spin selling still to this day. I learned to sell based on the spin selling method. I highly recommend it. There's also another new book that I like a lot, Bulletproof Writer. And while the book is geared towards writers and how to deal with constant rejection, it's really a good thing. It's a good read because dealing with constant rejection is hard. It's really hard. But if it gets really bad, the job search, if you just get too frustrated, you've had enough, step away. Just stop. Step away from the job search if that's what you have to do. But I will, a word of caution here, don't step away for more than a week. Don't give in to avoidance and procrastination, because when you get to this point, when you're feeling this level of frustration, you're actually closer than you think to getting a position. And plus you don't want to take too much time off. It's hard to get your mojo back. And I'd like to talk about something that most people don't. There's always the factor of luck in a job search, really. But I believe in making your own luck. If you stay active, you come here, you're doing your list, you're doing your networking, it will happen. It will come out of the blue, and it will happen when you've taken some time off from the job search because you're tired of people not calling you, and then one day they're going to call you. And it will. It absolutely will happen out of the blue. And so you've networked your way into an interview. Congratulations. What I have here with interviewing, I'm not going to talk about interviewing techniques, panel interviews, behavioral interviews. Most people in this room are over the age of 30. We know how to speak to other humans with words out of our mouths. So we don't need to have these discussions. So I'm not going to talk about that. But what I am going to talk about with interviewing, where a lot of people have a tendency to go a little sideways when interviewing, is they get an interview and they go, oh, it went really great. So I'm going to stop all of my other job search activities and play this out. Well, the problem is you don't want to do that. Things happen. The strangest things can happen. The job opening can go away for no reasoning. We don't know why. The hiring manager quits. They get laid off. People die. I had someone die. Absolute truth. I had someone die. Guess what? There was no job and Shelly didn't make any money that day. But it really, really happens. Stay the course, keep your head down, and keep moving forward until you get a job offer in your hand that you want to accept. And just as an FYI, I can tell you what my numbers are for, for what it takes for how many face-to-face interviews that you'll need. You'll need to interview on average, if you're the average Joe, with 3 to 5 different companies before you get a job offer that you'll want. Because you'll probably get job offers before that. But I'm talking about the job offer that you want. And, yes? Oh, okay. I thought a question was coming. But that's my experience. But just don't stop until you get an interview. Until you get an offer. Yes, sir?
If you need money and you take sort of a filler job, how do you account for that later on in a productive way while you're working to get that ideal or better job?
Right. And how do you get a filler job?
I'll explain it.
Yeah. And are you talking about a job for a couple of months, or do you think a job for a year, or?
Couple of months.
Couple of months. I have a tendency to say that if you're working someplace for 3 months or less, it doesn't go in your resume. It doesn't go in your if it's not resume building. That is, if it's not resume building, and that is not being deceitful. It's just nobody's business. Yes.
Like 6 months as get hired in, discover it's a terrible fit, but you're desperate enough for manpower and you're desperate enough for money that you're going to stay there, give them 6 months.
Right.
How exactly do you explain that? It was a filler job, it was a paycheck, even if it is directly field related.
I don't think you have to explain it at all. If you want to, if it goes on the resume, the position lasted for 6 months. That's it. Anymore with contract work and so on and so forth, it doesn't need to be explained away. I don't think that things need to be overly explained. This is what I did. I went and I took a position with this company, and oh, by the way, I heard Widget Code that you were hiring, and you are the best in your industry and the best at what you do, and everybody wants to work here, including me. It's really that simple. Or alternately, if you're working a contract job, working through a contractor, and you decide to go work full time, well, why were you at this company for 6 months? Because the contract ended. That's why. Because I was searching for full-time employment, and that's what I got. It's do what you need to do. But anything 2 months or less, don't even bother to put on your resume. Just don't. Because that's hard to explain. So, any questions on that? Feelings on my opinions on that? Yes. Yes, sir.
I would say don't discount the filler job. I started a filler job and I've been there over 10 years.
There you go.
I laid off recently, so I've kind of moved past it, but they can't actually turn it into a real job.
Right. It absolutely can. But I think, sir, you were referring to, I just desperately need some money and I need to put food on the table. Am I right?
Well, it looked like a really good job with lots of learning potential. And I showed up and discovered that the job absolutely did not fit the job description at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Or in the case of my husband, he showed up on his first day of work and his boss told him an effing idiot in the first 2 hours. So, yeah, that happens.